Hello,
Hey,
my name is Fiona Bengo.
my name is Kemi Gishafiete.
Nice to meet you, Kemi Gisha.
Nice to meet you too.
So today is 5th April 2019.
Mm.
I'm a student in the Bachelor of Arts program with College for America at Southern New Hampshire, and I'm conducting this video as part of my academic work. With your consent, I'll be able to record this interview and use the information in a street interview video. I'm working on for the project Government and You. The interview will be used to create street interview video and submit it to the CFA so that my project can be evaluated.
Okay.
This recording will be used solely for this purpose. The interview information will be temporarily stored in CFA online evaluation system, to which only the evaluator and CFA staff will have access. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
So do you give your consent to be interviewed and recorded?
Yeah, I do. So I, Kemi Gishafiete, I gave my informed consent to participate in this interview, to be recorded and used as a part of my student academic work.
Thank you very much. So Kemi Gisha, can you please tell me the three branches of government?
Three branches of government. There is executive, there is legislative and Congress.
And Congress. Thank you. And then, what does each branch do?
For legislative, you find lawyers, yeah, and for Congress, you find the members of the Republic, and for legislative, you find the ministers.
Okay, that's great. And then we have Democrats and Republicans are the major parties. Can you name a third party?
Third party, I think it is. I'm not very sure for third party, but I think maybe it's the combination of all ministers, but I'm not very sure.
Okay, that's good. Then what is the basic process by which a bill becomes a law?
Yeah, I think it's not a long process, because like they introduce the bill, then they take it to the president. President, because he's the one in charge, he can just make it a law.
Okay, that was great. So that was my last question, Kemi Gisha Fietera. Thank you very much for answering. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello.
So my name is Fiona Bengo. Nice to meet you. So today is 5th April 2019. I'm a student in the Bachelor of Arts program with College for America at Southern New Hampshire University, and I'm conducting this interview as part of my academic work. With your consent, I will record this interview and use the information in a street interview video. I'm working on for the Government and You project. So the interview will be used to create street interview video and submitted to CFA so that my project can be evaluated. This recording will be used solely for this purpose. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so do you give your consent to be interviewed and recorded?
Yes, I do.
So if you do so, you can read that.
I, Pacifica, give my informed consent to participate in this interview to be recorded and used as a part of students' academic work.
Thank you, Pacific. So I have a couple of questions that I would like to ask you. So first is, what are the three branches of government?
Yeah, well, the three branches of government, we have legislative, we have executive, and we have judicial branch.
And judicial. Thank you so much. The second question is, what does each branch do?
I think that legislative is there to just make laws. Then the judicial deals with the things of courts, and executive is just there to enforce those kind of laws.
Thank you so much. So we have Democrats and Republicans are major parties. Can you name a third party?
Just a third party now is there is a Libertarian Party, another one which is called Green Party.
The Green Party also. So what is the basic process by which a bill becomes a law?
I'm not well sure about, but I know what I know. The legislative branch of the government just make there and sit there and just compose a law as a suggestion, which is still a bill. Then it is transferred to different levels of organization of the government, So there they review, they make a budget for that law, then they analyze and judge it, and when they find it's okay, then it's sent to the government who just sign it, then it becomes a law.
Thank you very much for your information. That was my time. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
After conducting the street interview, the answers that my interviewees gave me were not far from the truth, because they had some idea but they were somehow confusing. So, but it seems like they had some idea what were the branches, also the third party. Like the first one told me about the third party, which was Green Party, which it was a good thing. It means that they knew a lot about the government. So for the first questions, what are the branches of government? So the branches of government, we have legislative, executive, and judicial. And then the second question was, what role does each play? So the legislative, they create laws, and then for the executive, they execute laws, and then judicial, they interpret laws. And then the other question, how are the branches connected? So these three branches, they are connected in a way that which is able to change the actions that have been made by other branches. So like in the executive, where we have the president and the cabinet secretary, so for them, the president may sign or veto a law created by the legislative. And also the legislative oversees the executive bureaucracy. So for them, that is how they are connected, because they are the ones who can be able to change the actions taken by another branch. And then also for the judicial, this is where we have the Supreme Court. This is where we have the judges. So the judicial might find some laws unconstitutional and overturn them. So, and then also the judicial interprets law, while the legislation confirms judicial appointments. And the president nominates the federal judges. So the president, without the president, there will not be any nomination for federal judges. And then also the executive branch executes laws, but the judicial might overturn unauthorized laws. So the executive branch, which is a combination of the president and the cabinet, when they execute a law, so when the judiciary sees that the law is not authorized, they might overturn it. And then how do they regulate each other? According to checks and balances. As you've heard how they are connected from what I've said earlier, so from how they are connected, it is clear that there are some checks and balances which prevent other branches from exercising their powers. As you can see, without the judicial, executive can't work. Without the legislature, the executive can't work. And then without the executive, also the judicial can't work. So they are connected in that way. So one branch can be able to limit another branch from taking an action. So that those are the checks and balances. And then the other question was, we have Democrats and Republicans. At their major parties, can you name a third party? So from the street interview, both my interviews were able to answer, because they told me that there are two. They told me about the Green Party, which is a good thing. They knew really what was the third party. So, and then also, how did the two-party system start? So, according to what I've read, so we have two major party systems. So first of all, we have two major parties. We have the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. So how it started for the Republican Party, it was founded in the northern states in 1854 by anti-slavery activities, modernizers, ex-Whigs, and ex-free soldiers. The Republican Party quickly became the principal opposition to the dominant Southern Democratic Party. So they became the principal opposition. Then the main cause was opposition to the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which repealed the Missouri compromise by which slavery was kept out of Kansas. So the Northern Republicans saw the expansion of slavery as a great evil. And then by 1858, the Republicans they dominated nearly all northern states. So the Republican Party first came to power in 1860 with the election of Lincoln to the presidency, and Republicans in control of Congress and again the northern states. Then the Republicans were cemented as the party of business, though mitigated by the succession of Theodore Roosevelt, who embraced trust busting. The party controlled the presidency throughout the 1920s, running on a platform of opposition to the League of Nations, high tariffs, and promotion of business interests. As we heard, that is how the Republican Party came to be. And then also we have another major party which is called Democrats. So the Democratic Party is one of the two major contemporary political parties in the United States, along with the Republican Party. So since 1930s, the party has promoted a social liberal, social democratic, and progressive platform, and its congressional caucus is composed of progressives, liberals, centrists, and left libertarians. So the party has the lengthiest record of continuous operation in the United States and is one of the oldest political parties in the world. For example, you have President Barack Obama, who is the 15th Democrat to hold the presidency. So it's been there for a long time. And then the Democratic Party evolved from anti-federalist factions that opposed the fiscal policies of Alexander Hamilton in the early 1790s. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison organized these factions into the Democratic Republic Party. The party favored states' rights and strict adherence to the Constitution. It opposed a national bank and wealthy moneyed interests. So they were opposing the national bank and wealthy moneyed interests. Then the Democratic Republican Party gained power in the election of 1800. So Democratic and Republicans split over the choice of a successor to President James Monroe, and the party faction that supported many of the old Jeffersonian principles, led by Andrew Jackson and Martin Van Buren, became the Democratic Party. In the 1850s, under the stress of fugitive slave law and the Kansas-Nebraska Act, anti-slavery Democrats left the party. Joining with former members of existing or dwindling parties, the Republican Party emerged. In the lead up to 1860 election, the Democratic Party split further, this time over nominees, which led to a Republican victory, and that is when Abraham Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States. So, as the American Civil War broke out, Northern Democrats were divided into War Democrats and Peace Democrats. So most War Democrats, they rallied to Republican President Abraham Lincoln and the Republicans' National Union Party in the election of 1864. So after the end of Reconstruction in the 1870s, the South, voting Democratic, became known as the Solid South. Though Republicans won all but two presidential elections, the Democrats remained competitive. So also the Great Depression in 1929 that occurred under Republican President Hoover set the stage for a more liberal government. So the Democrats controlled the House of Representatives nearly uninterrupted from 1931 until 1995. You can see that was very long, and won most presidential elections until 1968. Franklin D. Roosevelt, elected to the presidency in 1932, came forth with government programs called the New Deal. So that is how Democrat Party came into existence. So we have other minor parties which can be called third parties. So what impact do they have on national politics? First of all, let me talk about some of the national parties that we have. For instance, we have the Green Party. Also, we can have the Constitution Party, and also the I can remember those two. And also we have also the Liberal Party. So they are the ones which oppose the two major parties. So for them, their impact to the national politics that they organize and mobilize around a single issue or position, putting pressure on candidates from major political parties to address those issues. They also influence the election by taking the votes away from a major party candidate. So for them, they prevent the other major parties, which are Republican and Democrats, from taking all the votes for themselves. And then finally we have the last question, which was, what is the basic process by which a bill becomes a law? So during the street interview, I asked my interviews about that questions, and they were able to some answer very well what is the process, but they were not clear about it. But now here I have the true steps that how a bill becomes a law. So the first step is that a bill is born. So here, anyone might draft a bill, however, only members of Congress can introduce legislation and by doing so become the sponsors. So the President, a member of the Cabinet or the head of federal agency can also propose legislation, although a member of Congress must introduce it. So the next step is committee action. So as soon as a bill is introduced, it is referred to a committee. At this point, the bill is examined carefully and its chances for passage are first determined. If the committee does not act on a bill, the bill is effectively dead. So the third step is subcommittee review. Often bills are referred to as subcommittee for study and hearings. So hearings provide the opportunity to put on the record the views of the executive branch, experts, other official supports, and opponents of the legislation. So the fourth step is markup. When the hearings are completed by the subcommittee, so they might meet to mark up the bill, that is make changes and amendments prior to recommending the bill to the full committee. If a subcommittee votes not to report the legislation to the full committee, the bill dies. If the committee votes for the bill, it is sent to the floor. And then the fifth step is that committee action to report a bill. So after receiving a subcommittee's report on a bill, the full committee votes on its recommendation to the House or Senate. This procedure is called ordering a bill reported. Then the sixth step, we have voting. After the debate and the approval of any amendments, the bill is passed or defeated by the members through voting. The seventh one is referral to other chamber. So when the House or Senate passes a bill, it's referred to other chamber, where it usually follows the same route through committee and floor action. This chamber may approve the bill as received, reject it, ignore it, or change it. So the eighth step is that conference committee action. So when the actions of other chambers significantly alter the bill, a conference committee is formed to reconcile the differences between the House and Senate versions. If the conferees are unable to reach agreement, the legislation dies, which means the bill dies. If agreement is reached, a conference report is prepared describing the committee members' recommendation for changes. Both the House and the Senate must approve the conference report. So step number 9, we have final action. So after the House and the Senate have approved a bill in identical form, it is sent to the President. If the President approves of the legislation, he signs it and it becomes law. Or if the President takes no action for 10 days while Congress is in session, it automatically becomes a law. If the President opposes the bill, he can veto it, or if he takes no action after the Congress has adjourned its second session, it is a pocket veto, and the legislation dies. Then the last step is that overriding a veto. So if the President vetoes a bill, Congress may attempt to override the veto. If both the Senate and the House pass the bill by a 2/3 majority, the President's veto is overruled and the bill becomes a law. So those were the steps the process to which a bill becomes a law. So as you've seen, there are some important elements here. So we have something called the sponsors. So the sponsors are the ones they are the members of Congress who introduce a legislation. So they are the ones who are called the sponsors. They have a vital position in making the bill to become a law. The second one, we have committee. So as soon as the bill is introduced, it is referred to a committee. So these are the ones who see if the bill is really okay. So they are the ones to test it. And then also we have debate. This is where the two houses, we have the House and the Congress. So they come together, they debate about it. If they accept, that is when they make sure that it moves on. And then also we have voting. So after the debate and approval of any amendments, the bill is passed or defeated by the members through voting. So they vote so that the bill can be passed by the members. So those were the questions that I got. So I hope the governments of different countries have been able to use this process in coming up with the law. So I hope this will be helpful for different governments. And that was it. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day.